We're unmuted now, folks.
Residents on Monday, every Sunday night I go over
They
there.
went to a okay.
Emerald.
Let's call the meeting in order, please.
It's rough.
Can we have a roll call?
Councilwoman Cleveland. Present. Councilman Saxonheimer.
Here.
Councilwoman Smith. Councilwoman Smith absent. Councilman Evans.
President.
Councilman Nelson.
Present.
Councilman Hahn.
Present.
Councilwoman Russo.
Present.
And Councilwoman Campbell. Here. You have a quorum.
Thank you. First order of business is a public hearing on the tax rate, and I see that there's no one from the public here. I will go on and explain what we've done with it.
Is there anyone online?
No, no one is doing this online.
Thank you.
So, the tax,
Our time, you know.
the tax rate this year is identical to the tax rate from last year. Assessments have actually gone down, and we don't know the reason for that. We did have some tear downs, but it doesn't account for $375,000 lower assessment for all the residential property in the city. At any rate, it's a net gain of $3,600 for the city of Normandy, keeping the rate the same. Primarily, that was an increase in personal property, that when you filled out your declaration, that value went up significantly. So it's going to make, we go from approximately 100,000 to 103,600, 3% increase in revenue, and the rates stay the same.
Mayor?
Yes.
If I may, actually, and I'm just quibbling here, the commercial tax rate actually went down this year by .002. So,
Really? I thought
Major change there.
.002. Thank you for correcting me. Okay. Well, first of all, since there's no one from the public here, do I have a motion to close the public hearing portion of this meeting?
Make a motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Now, moving on, I've got Council Bill 22-23, first reading, an ordinance of the City of Normandy, Missouri, levying its rates of taxation on taxable property within the city for the year 2022. To have a second reading at the same meeting, we'll need a unanimous vote. Do I have a motion for a second reading?
You were discussing this that we got in the packet.
Yes. And we can discuss it more.
I'm just trying to.
Yeah. Is there a motion for a second reading?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Roll call vote, please.
Councilwoman Cleveland.
Yes.
Councilman Saxonheimer.
Yes.
Councilwoman Smith. Councilwoman Smith absent. Councilman Evans.
Yes.
Councilman Nelson.
Yeah.
Councilman Hahn.
Yes.
Councilwoman Russo.
Yes.
Councilwoman Campbell.
Yeah.
The ayes have it, thank you. Bill 22-23, an ordinance of the City of Normandy, Missouri, levying its rates of taxation on taxable property within the city for the year 2022. Is there any questions, concerns, or comments on this bill and what it does? Is there a motion to approve?
And you said the rate went down from last year?
No, Andy, .002 on the
Commercial
property.
only. I mean, they're basically the exact same.
They're the same?
Yeah. It's a very minuscule reduction.
Yeah.
But because of the way that the assessed valuations work out, there is a slight increase in the revenue estimate
Okay.
over last year. Enough to, actually, it's not enough to account for inflation. but
Yeah.
Andy, this figure is different, doesn't matter, except it's not.
What do you mean?
Well, commercial real estate, it's 0.2820.
Right, so last year, the commercial rate was .2840. This year, it is .2820.
Okay.
And that's what the proposed rate is. And that is the ceiling for what can be imposed.
Okay. I get it.
Andy, I'm sorry, that ceiling, is that imposed by the county or is it imposed by the state?
So this is for property taxes in the city, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean,
In the city of Normandy?
the city of Normandy.
Right. But,
Well, okay, so the ceiling, okay, so we'll get a little into the weeds here.
oh, yeah.
So the reason that the ceiling adjusts every year, and that the city has to adopt this every year, is because in the Missouri Constitution, there is an amendment called the Hancock Amendment, named for, I believe he's a senator, I don't remember his first name. But basically, this is an amendment to the Missouri Constitution which requires, it basically prohibits raising tax rates, a political subdivision, including cities, from raising tax rates without a vote of the people, right? So every year, tax rates have to be adjusted based on changes to the assessed valuation, right? So if you have changes in the assessed valuation of the real and personal property in the city, then through the program provided by the state auditors, we plug numbers in, they spit out what the adjusted tax rates should be to ensure that the actual revenue being brought in does not increase beyond what is allowed. There is a small built-in allowable increase for inflation.
Okay, thank you.
Right, so otherwise, if the city decided, no, we're gonna levy a 5% tax for every, or a 5-cent tax, then we'd be in violation of the Hancock Amendment, right? Because it would be done without sending that to a ballot measure to the citizens of Normandy.
Okay.
Does that explain?
Yes, and I'm reading that as well, so.
Okay.
Well, Andy, I'm a little confused because what about the drive-by assessments that they have? When they drive by, assess your home, and then they tax you on what they assess? And then if you don't respond, then you end up paying what they decided that you should pay?
So what the county does, and that's the function of the county assessor's office. The county assessor's office have appraisers that go around and every year, and really they redo the appraisals every, it's
2 years.
odd years, it's every 2 years, right? So that's to figure out what the assessed valuation is, right? There's an appraised amount, and then there's a calculation from the appraised amount to get the assessed valuation, which is a fraction of the, and I don't know the exact fraction off the top of my head, but it's a fraction of the appraised amount. And then the assessed valuation of your property is what the tax rate is levied against.
Okay, but
Right,
what if-
so-
what if you don't agree with what they assess and you appeal it?
Well, so individuals have
Right.
the
Yeah, we have done it myself.
power to, appeal to the Board of Equalization, and then if they don't like what the County Board of Equalization says, they can go to the State Tax Commission, right? But again, that has to do with the actual assessed valuation of any individual property, and then these numbers are the assessed valuations of all the property in the city, right?
Okay.
And then the city, and the county has its own property taxes, right, that they impose, but we're just talking about the city.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, I'm sorry for the time.
Anyone else? Is there a motion to approve Bill 22-23?
Make a motion.
And we have a motion and a second. Does this require a roll call, Andy? Tax rate?
Let's go ahead and do the
Roll call vote, please.
Councilwoman Cleveland?
Yes.
Councilman Sextonheimer?
Yes.
Councilwoman Smith? Absent. Councilman Evans?
Yes.
Councilman Nelson?
Yes,
Councilman Hahn?
Yes,
Councilwoman Russo?
Yes.
And Councilwoman Campbell?
Yeah.
Ayes have it. Bill 22-23 passes.
That's number 765.
Next item on the agenda, new business, is a resolution to engage in a contract with Pasadena Park to provide police service. A resolution, the city of Normandy, Missouri, authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement to provide police services to the village of Pasadena Park. We've had this contract for more years than any of us have been here, I think. well, we gave them several options. The one they chose was a flat 5% increase from what they paid last year, and then a 3% increase each year thereafter, and then a 2-year option following the original 4-year term, is that correct? The initial 4-year term, then there's a 1-year option and an additional 1-year option. This could be a 6-year contract if they choose to exercise their option.
So right now it's a 4-year contract.
It's a 4-year contract, yes.
With an option.
With an option to, each year is, it's a 1-year option followed by another 1-year option. And each year is a 3% increase,
We said first year was 5%.
5%. That was to help cover for the
That sounds
inflation we've been staring at this year.
So the 5th year,
I think so.
they could they could renegotiate with us, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, just like they did now, they could put it out for bid and we could, if they put out an RFP, we respond and.
Or they can just take the 3% and extend, yeah.
Mayor?
Yes.
How many cars do we provide for them?
We don't, if you don't mind me.
Go ahead.
Yeah, we don't have a Pasadena Park car. They're one of our smaller municipalities, so they're just part of the Normandy
So
fleet.
we just patrol it?
Yep,
Okay,
yeah.
gotcha.
Is there a motion to approve the resolution to provide police services to the village of Pasadena Park?
Hold on, please.
Let's get the motion,
Okay.
we'll engage. We should have done that in the first place.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any comment or concerns?
I just have a question. How big, as far as square footage, how big is Pasadena?
Their footprint?
Yeah,
I don't have the answer. I do
Would
not.
you like me to pull up a map?
Um,
I mean, they're fairly small. If you drive in that neighborhood, when the street changes,
Mhm.
then that's when you're in Pasadena
Yeah.
Hills.
Okay.
So it ends right about where the school starts.
Jefferson School is about the boundary.
Oh, so where
Yeah.
Jefferson School?
Yeah, everything
Okay.
east of Jefferson School is the hills, everything west is Pasadena.
Got it. So you pull in.
According to Google,
right
it's a
at the
64
school.
acres. It's the
64 acres.
total size of the
Okay.
city. It's a population of 573 as of
570.
2020, so
Okay.
it's fairly small.
In and out.
Let's keep it.
All right.
Anybody else? No questions,
So
concerns,
what's the final
comments?
bid on the contract?
72,600 for the
What
first
was it
year.
before?
Boy, 5% less, what was that number? So that would be about $3,600 less?
$600.
No, I believe it was 68,000
$68,000.
a year.
I thought you said that too. Yeah.
Now we're going up to 73.
72,600.
72,600.
He's saying-
It's right in here, we can look at it. In fact, I highlighted it in case anybody asked.
And I'll tell you, the previous contract, they had 3 years at a flat rate,
Mhm.
2% increase, and then 3 years of flat rate.
Mhm.
So I feel like getting them on this honestly fair gradual
fair,
increase. And I still think it's pretty conservative given inflation.
Mhm.
And it's still an improvement from the relatively flat pace
Yeah,
that they
prior
had
to
before.
contract we had.
$72,261 is
Okay.
year one. All right, we've got a motion and second.
I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead,
last
no,
question.
absolutely.
Do we know how many calls for service they had in the past year?
I can't give you the number on calls for service, it's a quiet.
It's low, yeah.
It's
Should be low,
slow.
right?
They're one of our more peaceful
Yeah.
communities by,
Yeah.
they're one way in, one way out. They maybe have 1 or 2 major incidents a year.
Right.
I gathered as much from the email, but I just wanted to
Yeah,
have it stated.
I can add, since we blocked off the entrance, exit coming off the middle road, it's been pretty peaceful over there, if you understand what I'm saying. You know what I mean?
Oh, the side streets.
Yeah, the side street right there.
Which I believe was their decision, but yeah, it's,
Yeah,
it's,
you can't get in, you can only get in from north, in that north of,
North Hills?
Yeah,
North
North Hills.
Hills and.
Yeah.
right
and then
there,
there's one other street you can,
Yeah.
Right, and then, the Springdale,
right.
yeah, that's it. Well, come out from Springdale and go in from north, Sunset.
Yeah,
Right, so,
Thank you.
All right, is there a motion to adopt?
So moved. Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, next item, old business, Council Bill 22-22, which I have to find.
Last page.
Thank you.
fiscal year,
Council Bill 2222, an ordinance of the City of Normandy, Missouri, adopting the fiscal year 2023 budget. For a second reading, we'll need a unanimous vote. Is there a motion for a second reading for Bill 22-22?
Are we doing the first reading? We've never
I
had
just had the first reading.
for the fiscal year?
Right, I just did it.
Okay, sorry.
Is there a motion for a second reading?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Councilwoman Cleveland,
Yes.
Councilman Saxonhaber,
Yes.
Councilwoman Smith, Councilman Evans,
Yes.
Councilman Nelson,
yes,
Councilman Hahn,
Yes?
Councilwoman Russo,
Yes.
Councilwoman Campbell.
Yes.
All right, second reading. An ordinance of the City of Normandy, Missouri, adopting the fiscal year 2023 budget. Comments, concerns, or questions?
Okay, were you able to get answers to the,
Yes. Sam, the $15,000 tree abatement line item, were you able to find the $5,000 to increase that to 20?
So if that's the council's pleasure, I would, so first off, the 15,000 number was what Doug Seeley, to be fair, was the minimum he recommended, but that was the recommendation from Doug Seeley, was the 15,000.
so it's changing over time.
I know.
So so then he's gonna match the 15 then?
The 15 will allow us for some matching. I mean, obviously, the more you put in, the more they'll match. But the 15 should make us eligible to actually take advantage of some of these grants. And it certainly meets the Tree City USA requirement that we're seeking, so.
Good. And did you figure out or find out, does that include the assessment of the trees in the whole city?
I believe it is covered in that 15,000. I believe the 15,000 he recommended was to include the tree assessment, which is mostly covered by the grant.
Wow.
If it's not, we can go back and amend the budget. At some point, a budget amendment will be needed next year, hopefully not right away, but, and it should, for my recommendation, I mean, he recommended 15,000 and in his recommendation, he mentioned this tree survey, so I believe. I won't lie to you, he's more of an expert on the tree
It's coming
grants
from
than I
him.
am, so, I mean.
It's a nice
So
resource for the city.
if there were a motion to increase that to 20,000, you don't think that would be an issue? We've got some unbudgeted items that we know we've got.
Could we-
The sale of the properties and such, we were gonna leave that in reserve.
Gotcha.
Because we don't have a reserve, and we thought any of these assets we sell on .gov and the real estate and such, we were not gonna budget that money. I'm
The
sorry.
money's
Oh.
coming in from the sale of
Well,
She got me at the last.
I'm sorry?
What's not working? What's not working?
No, it's,
So if you'd like to make the motion to increase
right.
line item 10792 to $20,000.
the, do we have it, Sam?
Well, if we're gonna do it, we gotta take it from somewhere. Now, what he's talking about is, we are looking to sell some assets. I don't know what they're gonna sell for, so we didn't budget it. And,
can I say, one thing? Can we amend it when we need it? We may not need it right
we can always do a budget amendment with an
Would
ordinance.
that be acceptable,
now. Yeah,
Debbie?
is that
Um,
something?
yeah.
Yeah, as
Yeah,
long
let's-
as, is Doug shared that with you.
Yeah, I
We're gonna
have
get
an
the
email.
matching grant, and we're gonna have a tree ID going. So I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I was just basing my concern on what he said a while back.
Right, because, yeah, the original budget, the first budget workshop we did, I think I put 9,000 in there, and that was just for the Tree Seed USA. And he came back and said, well, 15,000 will get you these matching grants. And if we get in and we find out there's a grant, we can always find some money
Yeah.
somewhere.
I think what we're trying to do is get on board with it.
Yes.
Yeah, and this will get us on board.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
What were the other,
Well, you had a
the
concern about
detective.
the detective's budget in the amount of 9,500, and it really wasn't a detective's budget, that was a total
So-
which included the detective's budget, and it was a wish list.
is it
wasn't
there, but, so we had that worksheet from,
Yes, so this was, and let me explain. So I believe you're asking about this worksheet that was presented to, at a previous budget workshop. This was a budget request from the Detective Bureau. And you saw the bottom line 9,500, and you're wondering where that ended up in the budget. So the first 3,200, we did incorporate into the police supplies budget. Then another 150 got incorporated into the police miscellaneous budget for major K squad. And then the additional about 5,000 for some software that they used got put into contractual services. And then there was some equipment that was kind of optional that we didn't have money for. But I believe you were asking, where is this 9,500?
because it's zero
Did it make it in?
in the new budget, yeah.
Right, yeah, and that was an old general ledger code that just hasn't dropped off yet. But to answer your question, it all made it in, but it made it in a different line item, so, yeah.
Anyone else?
Yeah, there's. I have a sticky note.
May I ask a question? Previously, in the past, our police budget would take maybe 61% of our budget.
Yeah.
Where are we standing with the number of officers that we have now and the percentage of our budgets going into our police force?
Yeah, so, a good place to look is on page 14 of your budget packet. That breaks it down by department. It doesn't break it down by percentages, but I do know them. So the police is currently 65% of our budget.
65%?
They going up?
And part of that is, the Bell Ridge contract and the police services. So, 64%. I put it in the budget message as well. So the police makes up 64% of total expenditures. And that's including capital, so, it fluctuates.
And what are our
So-
numbers?
But as far as full-time officers, 29 and a half.
29 and a half.
29 commissioned officers and one part-time police clerk, that's a civilian, so.
So as far as your estimation, what percentage of our budget should go to the police?
I think 65% is reasonable, given the fact that we have a population of 4,200, but our contract population is more like 8,000 or 9,000. Obviously, we're gonna have a bigger police department than most cities of 4,200 because we contract. So when you offset the contract revenues to the police department, it's much lower and much more reasonable.
So what is it?
Well,
Do you have that number?
I can figure it out for you real quick. If you don't,
And
So this 65% is before the contracts that we bring in the money?
No, that's not my
included.
understanding.
That's included, okay.
And
So,
I think that the,
so in actuality, what should what percentages are we talking where the police budget should be? What's an acceptable amount? Because myself, I think 64% is too high.
well,
I think it should be
and-
more right around 55%.
Right, but
So-
as you take in contract, you take in 700.
Yeah, I understand that, but
Yeah, I
I'm
mean-
just saying it should be
We're-
like at 55%.
Well, that's gonna
65%.
increase with every contract you take.
So,
Because the rest of the city is such a small part of that budget. Once you start policing 8 cities and you have a police force to do that, the rest of the city's a small amount of the overall budget.
Just still don't like that 65%.
What,
You notice I round stuff off.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's a lot.
That's
Yeah.
a lot, 65%, I don't like.
When we had 33 officers, we had 33 officers at one time, I think the agency, and we were spending 61% of our budget, but we didn't have Bill Riggs.
Well, I mean, you know, that's something that we probably need to discuss in the future.
Yeah,
You know, something that we really need to discuss because that's a.
no, I don't deny that, yeah.
Right,
So-
that's a lot of money.
Yeah, that's a big number.
so basically, the contracted part is, so if you take out the contract revenues and basically say, you know, the contract pays for that portion,
Mhm.
we're at 49% of our budget is police.
Oh, okay.
So if you think it should be, so basically that 15% of our budget is paid for by the contracts.
Okay,
So,
that makes sense.
Okay.
That's an acceptable number for me.
right, and you know, the
Because you're
benefit,
just saying 65%.
Right, right.
Once you broke it down like that with the.
You take-
Yeah, now,
Right.
okay, it makes sense now.
How many officers in that sector over there, Bill Riggs?
so, generally, ideally, it would be 2 officers in Bel Ridge. I'm not, you should talk to Chief Hall or
Right, yeah.
Captain Sanders about how they break out their patrols. But from my understanding, when we added Bel Ridge, initially, we were supposed to add 6 officers, or 8 officers, two for each shift,
Yeah,
basically. And then when we lost some other contracts, things have kind of shifted around. But generally, the way we design our beats is we're supposed to have 2 officers in Bel Ridge.
so
And
Sam, we had a 3-year or 5-year contract with them, what was it, 5
I
years?
believe it's 5 years.
Okay, at 3.8 million, was it?
I think total,
Yeah,
it's in 700,000 per
per
year.
year, yeah,
So, yeah,
so, yeah, so.
I don't have it in front of me. I can get it if you've got
Right.
specific questions, but yeah.
Okay, I'm fine, I'm
Yeah,
just trying to wrap my eye around how much money that,
So what's the number on Cool Valley? Do you have the number on Cool Valley?
I believe they're in the $300,000
A year?
and their renewal is up in January,
right.
so.
Are we negotiating with them yet, Mayor?
We're,
They haven't put out an RFP yet.
yeah, it's hard to know who to talk to over there.
They're having issues,
Right,
there's some dysfunction going on there.
And we have, I got a call today, just to share with the board, from Pine Line. Their services is no longer, co-op is not there anymore.
No, they left. They
So
wouldn't
they
get
left and
paid.
they were behind in payments. So it's not like we're looking to grab them or anything like that, but they can afford us, but you know,
Well,
you just hear stuff. you
Yeah,
know.
we can have this conversation if you want that to be an agenda item, but we don't have
No,
the staff.
we
for
won't
it.
have to talk about it.
Yeah.
Right, and if we're gonna, and just like this Pasadena Park contract, I know in the past, these things just got signed. I mean, we will, you know, always bring renewals and especially new contracts, we'll bring to the board for consideration. I mean, and we'll have those discussions at that time, but.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any other budget questions?
On the street improvement fund, that's including the street assessment?
So the street improvement fund, and I will call to the council's attention, we didn't have these special fund budgets done at the last workshop. And so they're pretty straightforward, but I think it'd be good to ask some questions. The street assessment is actually gonna be paid out of the general fund, and I went ahead and budgeted a $130,000 project, which will be identified when we get the street assessment. The the idea behind the street assessment, or the street improvement fund, from my understanding, is to let the balance build over the years from the road and bridge tax, and then once there's enough money to do a project, which there's a projected, $200,000 in there right now, which is certainly enough to do a project, then we,
Where do you see that, Sam? On
the projected,
October 1st?
yes. Or the fund balance September 30th on
Oh,
2022.
200, but that,
And
oh,
actually,
that's
there's
this
a
year.
typo right there. Yeah. We'll get that fixed.
So you're saying in the fund now, there's that $200,000, but when it goes to October 1st, it drops to 173,000.
It's a typo.
Huh?
We'll get it fixed. It's a typo. Clerical
got it.
error.
No worries, okay.
Now, since we're on the streets, improvement, will we be, Mayor, will we be prepared to do some work before the storm, before the ice and the snow comes?
Not this year. The first thing we're gonna do is a street assessment.
So, okay, yeah,
And then let a professional prioritize the needs.
So
and then
basically
we'll-
by, I guess by
We're
the
looking at spring of
spring,
next
we're gonna
year.
do a lot, because we got a lot of work to do.
Well, we'll have
Yeah, the assessment.
a projected 270,000, I think, by that
We'll have the
time.
money, okay, good, because we got a lot of work.
That's a good number to start with.
So Sam, so Beyond Housing is using a company for street assessment in other municipalities. Are we using that same company, or are we using someone else?
We will be holding our own process. I've talked with the people at Beyond Housing. Basically, that street assessment's already done. So we missed the boat on that one.
For the other 23?
Yeah, basically, it wasn't all the municipalities, but a bunch of the municipalities in the area got together and they got on one bid. And we would have had an option to jump in on that, but I'm not sure.
What happened?
You know,
We have to
they do
pay
it all
into
the
the
time.
It
24
was a, I mean, that started from my understanding a couple of years ago, so.
Yeah.
But that street assessment is done,
Yeah,
and they're just trying to get people to pay now. So,
Since they got the money.
Rick, I wanna correct that number. I
That's why
got
we're-
projected 230,000.
230,000 for the streets?
Well, yeah, but that'll be by October of next year, so, yeah.
She did say that any other assessment company is comparable, and they could use that data to whatever,
yeah, I mean, and we'll hold an RFP for the process, and we'll make sure that all the, major civil engineering firms know about it, and it's pretty run-of-the-mill service. I think we'll get good responses, so.
All right.
Okay.
And then we had a conversation on the sewer lateral repair assistance fund, which probably needs to be a workshop in the future in regards to what our city needs, right?
Yeah, that's aside from the budget. Yes, there's two options: increase the resident participation when there's a project to repair, or take it to a vote of the residents to increase the tax on your, is that a personal property or real estate?
Personal property,
Personal-
or real estate.
Real estate?
Yeah,
We're at $28, the max on that is 50, but if we want to raise that, then it goes to a vote.
What's that called then? What-
A sewer lateral fund,
I know, but we
a
said resident.
referendum, yeah, I don't know,
Oh,
what
no,
is it?
no. So you said resident
Two options.
participation, and what was the
Oh,
second
resident,
option?
right now residents pay 15%, minimum of $375. So we could increase that, or we could take it to a vote, and if the people want to vote to increase the sewer lateral fee that they pay on their taxes, chances are they wouldn't pay anything when there's a repair. So we're not in trouble on that now, but the projected curve, we are gonna be
In trouble,
in 3 or 4 years, so
Supposed
it's
to
something
be-
we need to talk about.
it's supposed to be a break-even fund, and it's getting harder to break even.
I believe that.
So, yeah.
With inflation and with added issues due to
Repairs,
flooding.
repairs are
Yeah,
expensive.
these cast iron 100-year-old sewer lateral
Oh.
lines get a year older every
Yeah.
year. And then when they get replaced with PVC, but then the part that didn't get replaced is next, and, yeah, no.
It's an ongoing thing.
Yes.
Okay,
All right,
I'm good, I think I'm gonna stick it out.
anybody? If there's no other questions or comments,
I will mention that, and
Norman.
this brings up a subject that will probably be another work session, but the mortgage on 7733 across the street is being paid out of the capital improvement in this proposed budget, which is
Oh, that's another question.
a significant change.
So we're not using the cell tower money for the mortgage?
In this, at this budget, I mean, unless someone wants to change this budget, but yes, you know, paying it out of the cell tower fund is basically paying out of cash reserves. It's running a deficit. It's paying out of the same cash reserves that's supposed to pay the balloon part of the note in 2025. So, you know, normally, we need to use our capital improvement funds every year to keep up with our fleet and everything that we need. We're catching a bit of a break with the ARPA funds, and so we have this luxury this year. But the whole cell tower fund thing and the mortgage is something that we've talked about quite a bit, and I think it's something that we need to talk about at a future meeting, workshop.
As of now, though, we did a vote to take the mortgage out of the cell tower, so do we have to backtrack and re-vote?
No, one, this budget is an ordinance, so it'll supersede the past ordinance. And then the language of the last ordinance was authorization, not anything about shall.
Yeah.
It was just, it authorized us.
if we got in a bind, we
It
can still do
obligates.
it.
Yeah.
Right. So Sam, how much money do we have left out of that cell tower fund?
750 plus.
Still have 700,000?
Oh, it's over 700. 752,
I have us at 745,
745?
yeah, 746.
Okay, and that's still in the, pretty much a restricted fund?
Restricted by ordinance,
Gotcha, okay.
And then we're not gonna be paying the mortgage out of that anymore.
Good.
you know, and,
I guess that's why we hired you, Sam,
well, that's,
all right?
And you're seeing the money in the capital fund?
Right?
You're seeing the money in the capital fund to pay off the mortgage each month?
yeah, I mean, we get, are you asking if there's enough in the capital improvement
Yeah,
fund?
I think I went over this. It is.
Yeah, the capital improvement fund, I got it projected at $75,000 next year, and the mortgage is $68,000.
For the year.
Yeah, I checked on the phone.
Right. So that's good.
And,
Somewhere.
and just talking more about, you know, just to prepare for the future meeting, when we talk about the cell tower, and if we want to pay down that mortgage, if we empty the cell tower right now on that, we would save, almost $98,000 in interest.
Compounded amortized interest.
Yeah.
Right.
And if we don't, we're gonna pay that interest, and then we're still gonna have to pay down the cell tower fund in
Is that,
November
is that something
2025.
we can talk about,
Later.
at a later date?
Yes.
Yes.
'Cause we
I-
did
Well,
something
we've
this
had conversations about this, and it was decided that we're gonna look at this year's budget, get through this year's budget, pass it, and then have that conversation again. So
Yes.
at a future meeting, we'll,
Yes.
I just don't wanna get to
Makes
that
sense.
meeting and then everyone look at me, you know, surprised about this, the capital improvement fund.
Yeah, thank you, yeah.
all right.
Sounds good.
We ready?
I think we are. We have a motion and a second. Can I, all in favor of Bill 22-22?
We just,
Aye.
aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. All right. Next item of business, a closed session to discuss a personnel issue. I'm gonna go ahead and mute this.
I take a vote.
Microphone.
I would-
There you go.
There I go.
I would
Okay.
want us to just log this entirely.
Yeah, we will.
Is there a motion to go into closed session
Make a
for
motion.
a personnel issue? Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Thank you.
Second.
So we don't have to move, right? Good.
Hold on, vote's going on.
Oh, on video.
Roll call.
Oh, I'm sorry. Councilwoman Cleveland.
Yes.
Councilman Saxon Hammer.
Yes.
Council, let's see, Councilman Smith, not here. Councilman Evans.
Yes.
Councilman Nelson.
Yes.
Councilman Hong.
Yes.
Councilwoman Russo.
Yes.
Councilwoman Campbell.
Yes.
Okay, now I'm going to mute.